Hey, Coach. So glad you found the video. Couple things. First of all, make sure you subscribe and like. Second thing, go over and check out teachhoops.com for coaches who want to get better. Let me show you how to put a roadmap and become a nationally ranked coach. I've done it for 30 plus years. Let me help you do that over at teachhoops.com. Let's head off to the video.
All right, welcome to the Coaching Youth Hoops podcast. Happy
Coach.
September. I love
Yeah,
September. Do you like September, Coach? I love
I
September.
do.
But you don't live in Wisconsin in September.
No, so it's my September is a little different than your September.
My
Oh,
September is great. The
yeah, you
smells of
got the fall,
September and the
yeah, the
fall and
fall
the
smell.
leaves are changing and
Yeah,
it's the best. It's like April. Like I love the changes, those big changes. There's
the
great.
big changes are nice. That's what I do. I do miss that. Do miss the big
Like
changes. You feel
so
like you just accomplished
coach and I
something.
had a meeting, a month ago, and we were up at my lake house. And can you imagine the lake house in September? It's awesome.
Yeah,
It's just
I
like,
bet it's beautiful.
oh, it's gorgeous. And it's like
I'll be there in September.
yeah, you will be. I forgot about that. You're coming
Coming
for the
back. Yeah,
wedding. Yeah, you're coming
yeah.
for the wedding, and you can take your kids to Quick Trip. Um,
My daughter loves Quick Trip, so that's the joke
yeah,
you say.
and a
So,
lot of meat. You can eat a lot of meat, a lot of bratwurst.
a lot of
Be very
bratwurst, meat sticks,
stereotypical.
steaks.
Beef
Yeah.
steaks. Coach and I,
All right.
lost
That's
weight, and all we ate was meat when
yeah.
steaks and prime rib and. All right.
Going on a
What's
Wisconsin diet.
today's topic, Coach?
We're going to talk about game day management, and we have just a lot. And this is basically going to be a punch list of things you need to think about during for your game day management. It can be a lot, but you know, it's stuff we take for granted, and we got to just stop and pause and think about it. And again, it's
Before you
it's
get
just to
into
help
this,
you
I think one of the
prepare.
issues is most of you, it's you. Like maybe you're lucky and have an assistant, but you're the one that has to remember to bring. I mean, that's what I remember is I had that I don't have other
Right.
people reminding me of all the stuff I got to do. That's why it's
Yeah,
good to have kind of a you need to do, like I have assistant
exactly.
coaches
Yeah.
at the high school level that's their job is like make sure that stuff gets done. um and when you're by yourself it's even more important to have a checklist.
Yeah, and coaches, to me, we've made it easy for you. So before we get too far and forget to mention it, we did create a season checklist for everything, and this is just one aspect that you'll find in there. If you go to coachingyouthhoops.com/season dash checklist, again, coachingyouthhoops.com, season dash checklist, you can download. It's a free guide. Just ask you a ton of questions to help you think through everything you need to plan for the season. This is something I created this because I wish I had it. Then
Yes.
I can just go step by step, check, did I do this? Yes. Did I do this? Yes. Did I do this? Oh, no, I got to do that, right? Just because I didn't know what I didn't know when I first started coaching. And here I put it all in one document. But you're diving in, and again, this is think about like game day management. This is not game management. So these are some of the things you just got to think about. For example, let's just dive in.
Okay.
Game equipment. Show up with balls, and are they
A good
inflated?
idea.
Right. So
Yeah.
yeah, right. First aid kits. Right. Do you have that with you? Do you have anything else you might need? Water bottles if you do that for your kids, or do you have your stats page if you're taking stats? What is your game day routine? Right? What are you doing? I find that eases the kids a little bit if you do the same few things every day, maybe, or every game, eases their mind. We like routine, calms us. Um, what else?
Amen. So, I
Yeah,
mean, from a teacher of 35 years, routine is important. And you could see it during COVID. When they lose routine, they complain about it, but they like it. There's a reason when the kids are little, you have a routine at bedtime and stuff. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So
And
it's a transition, right?
it is. It
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
And you can use this checklist as that kind of the same way kind of thing. But anyway, go
Right.
ahead.
Oh yeah. Do the kids know all the rules, age appropriate rules, right? That they need to know. If you have a good set of rests, or especially if they're younger ones, they'll help you along on the court. But at the same time, do they know, that they can't step out of bounds or over the line when they throw the ball in, or when can they leave on a free throw? Do they know those little nuances? And you can't enter the circle on a free throw once somebody's, in their shot. So all those little things too, like, okay, go through the rules with them. Um, what else? Who's gonna monitor the pregame warm-ups? Is that you? Do you have an assistant coach? Um, what about game stats? Do you have an parent do any game stats at all? Or now it's so easy, you don't even need your parents. You can just use GameChanger. And if you go to coachingyouthhoops.com, I'm sorry, if you go to GameChanger.com/coaching youth hoops, check out GameChanger to take all of your stats live. All you got to do is really set up a camera and let it go if you don't have a parent who's there. Um, Keeping track of fouls, timeouts, although it's a little easy. I sometimes, as you know, I'm sure you forgot that, oh, did I use a timeout in the first half? How many fouls does,
Right.
Jack have or Jane have, right?
Right.
Who's monitoring that? Who's doing substitutions? So this is one I got caught up when I was a first time being an assistant coach. I got my hand slapped by the head coach when I saw a player just dogging it, and I'm like, "Oh, you got to go in for her. She's just not getting up and down the court." And he's kind of barked at me about, and he apologized after, but just, I take care of substitutions. I'm like, "Okay, yeah, you're right." So who's doing that? You can have your. I see. I had my assistant coaches do it too, and I didn't really care once I was the head coach, just because they might see something that I'm not. More eyes, professional eyes on the situation, the better. Um, what about well, I call it coaching interventions. Like when a player comes off and needs to be talked to, is that you? Are you okay with assistant coaches doing that,
Right.
helping them
And
out?
where do they go? And do they go get water first? Or they walk up and down the bench and slap hands,
Slap
especially the
hands.
older kids? Or do they sit next to you? I always say they gotta sit. I want to be able to I don't want to have to go find you.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure I have some teachable moments at that point, not necessarily bad ones, but something.
Timeouts too. Like who calls it? Well, not who calls a timeout, but the head coach does that. But what happens during a timeout? Do you let your assistant coaches talk during a timeout? What's the routine around timeout so the kids know, have you practiced that? Are they aware of what to do? Not walk over, but run over during a timeout.
Right.
What's the difference between a 30-second and a minute timeout? How are you treating those different? What's your assistant coach's duties? Do you have those spelled out for them for game day? Um, what about what else? Can assistants speak during the timeouts? How are you communicating with the players on the court?
Or I think that's a big one. How do you call plays? Do
Hmm.
you not call plays? How do you call out of bounds? I mean, all those things I think are important. Um, Developmentally for sure. It's like are you just gonna let them pick an out of bounds play, or do you have to pick an out of bounds play? Giving them the freedom. Where do you give them the freedom? I think some of that stuff is really big.
Yeah. And then post game too. Are you meeting afterwards? And how long? And what's your routine around that? Right. And I would suggest to have a routine around post game wrap up with your team. Other little things, my big thing was, hey, we're going to leave this place cleaner than we got here. So even if you go to some of these tournaments and the bench, there's just water bottles everywhere, right? I'm like, clean them up.
Yeah.
you know, and they're like, that's not our responsibility. I'm like, heck yeah, it is, right? It just teaches you discipline
Well, and I think some of
and
it is
um,
reminders too. Like, how are you going to remind them, when they leave a timeout, when at halftime,
right,
like what are the reminders at the end of the game? When's the next practice? I think those things you can't be scrambling and, hey, I'll see you all on Tuesday kind of thing, which is good. You want to set
right.
those little micro reminders, I think, are important. So for them to definitely grow as and then it gives them some responsibility as far as what they need to do. So
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
important.
exactly. Yeah. Yep. No. And then, shaking hands, at least I think most people still go up and down the line, shake hands, shake the refs' hands, right? Make sure you acknowledge them after the game. Set those routines with your players. What else, Coach? Anything else we were missing on this long list? I think this is a
No,
good
I think there's a
teaser.
lot of things that we could sit and talk about: routines and game management and micro, and like what do you do when you have somebody with two. I mean, there's all sorts of, this is more macro than micro, I think, but give them that
Yeah,
UI
and
again, coach, so
yeah,
they can look at
yeah,
the
we go
wall,
into the micro
right?
on that list. It's yeah, if you go to coachingyouthhoops.com /season dash checklist, go check it out again, coachingyouthhoops.com /season dash checklist. There's 280 questions that just like we went through, it breaks it all down into parts of the season and different categories, and just a guide to help you think through planning your entire basketball
And
season.
let's give a big
And it's
shout
free.
out to our sponsor, GameChanger.
Yes, GameChanger is what makes these podcasts free. Go to gc.com /coaching youth hoops. It's a great tool, great aid, makes your practices, makes your games more efficient, helps you keep track of stats, and your parents, grandparents can see
I
the
mean,
games
it
live.
leads into what we're talking about too with game management, because then you can go
That's
back
right.
and see how was your game management, because you can go back and watch the film. Like it's yeah, and
Well,
it's
and
a
you want to
hub
learn to
for
be
everything too.
you want to learn how to be a better coach is watch yourself coaching. That's very
Right.
humbling. I
Yes.
wasn't yelling.
I
Oh,
wasn't
you
mad
sure?
at the officials. What are you talking about? No, I
Yeah.
think Game
How was
Changer is
my,
great.
and it's like my body language. Was my body language positive when, your player missed that wide open layup? How did I respond? I want them to respond and say next play, did I? Right.
Right.
So yeah, game changer.
Yes.
Uh, GameChanger.com /coaching youth hoops.
All right, go check it out. Till next week, coach.
Till next week. All right.
Hey, coach, so glad you enjoyed the video. I hope you enjoyed it a lot. Actually, if you did, subscribe and like, and then go over and check out teachhoops.com for coaches who want to get better.